Catherine, Mead, we've just had an interesting Zoom moment where we've tried to connect, and I think that's typified the fact there's massive advancements in the technology, so that you and I are speaking to each other, which is great. I'm in Suffolk, you're in Cornwall, but occasionally it thwarts us, and suddenly you think, oh, well, you're a cheesemaker, and I'm all right as a broadcaster on the right side of a camera or a microphone. I'm not so good on the other side.
I think the different platforms have been quite something for us all to master, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think I have icons on my computer for at least 5 different platforms, and getting into them has always got some sort of knackiness about it. And
on that note, I'm going to get you just to slightly tilt if you tilt your computer a little, that's better. That's better, yeah. So come on, well, yeah, line of dairies, have you been able to work all the way through pretty much? How's it been?
Well, we had the week before the lockdown, you could see trouble on the horizon, there was no doubt about that. And it was pretty fraught, and we were all, no one quite knew what we were looking for. Well, we were just sitting there waiting for this, this tsunami, and we're kind of wondering just how big is it going to be. But we saw some significant sales reductions at that point. And so we started talking to staff and saying, look, guys, we don't anticipate that we're going to be making much product in the, in the short term. We're going to have to contract a bit and just get ahead of this. And then March the 23rd, everything fell off a cliff, as people keep saying, and orders just disappeared. And I think the reason why orders disappeared was not because people stopped eating, because we know they didn't, but because people started shopping in a very, very different way. And they went with as many supermarket bags as they could potentially fit in their car, and absolutely raided supermarkets where they were, picking very, very quickly things off shelves that were wrapped principally in plastic, not always, but principally in plastic. And it was just max out the visit and make sure that you get as much food as you possibly can. And so our challenge was to weather that 4 weeks where we had cheese in our maturing rooms, which frankly was losing time and was quite a concern to us. But also the focus seemed to be so heavily on this volume of food to a huge number of people, because of course they weren't just feeding, they were making up for all the restaurant and the cafe and food service fees as well. So they were suddenly having to do that much more than they were doing before. So they really were also very pressed. And then I think it was about week 3 when everyone said, okay, we've got enough food in our houses. We are not going to starve. This is going to be okay. But actually, we are a little bit tired of the same offers. And we're slightly missing the diversity that we had in food service. And we're definitely missing the diversity we had in small and independent shops, even though we weren't always big users of them. And so at week 3, we started to see a little bit more interest in the market and a bit of picking up. Not enough, I might say, to really balance out our maturing stores. And we had, by that stage, stopped production. So although we were making here, we had stopped production. And we were thinking of every single possible way of getting cheese from our dairy into the customer's hands. And as you would have heard time and time again, online presented the biggest opportunity that we had. And happily, we were quite well set up administratively to manage online sales. We certainly weren't set up in production terms to do the volume that we did in the first instance. And it was, absolutely overwhelming how the orders came in. But of course, where we'd previously been putting quite large quantities of cheese on a pallet to go to a wholesale customer or to a cheesemonger or whatever, now we're selling very small bits of cheese to individual people. So that was taking us sort of to the end of April, and we just saw things notching up a bit. So last week of April, we started making a very small amount of cheese. And we carried on in the beginning of May and the first 3 weeks. And then suddenly we seemed to see this total step change where the independents, our cheesemakers, our cheesemongers, our delis, our farm shops, seem to be in the new darlings of retail, and this is where everyone wanted to be. And so they were in no small part compensating for our lack of food service opportunities, and combined with our online business, they suddenly our whole sales profile looked completely different. It was really peculiar. So arguably we were only doing more of the same, but the balance had changed beyond recognition, really. And then by the time we got to the end of May, really by that stage, things are ramping up to not far off normal service. Let's say it's about 80%. Well, 80% is good, in this strange and wonderful world. 80% felt really quite manageable, and albeit we're on a contracted team. But then we had the next conundrum, which is how do we go to that next 20% whilst keeping social distancing? And so actually we've taken a kind of good hard look at what we're doing, and we're saying we can carry on like this at this 80%, the 75-80% mark. And it's in no manner of means is it disastrous, because it gives us a really good opportunity to just kind of revisit where we've come from, who we are, what we want to do, and what our sales profile looks like, and how that balances with the type of business that we are. So it's been a really interesting time, and now we are shorting Cornish Yard. We do not have enough, and we don't really feel we can put much more in without breaking the social distancing principles, which I know some businesses feel they take the spirit of guidance, which is if you can socially distance. But right now we're very committed to saying, socially distance, and our team want that.
How many people do you have on the team?
We're about 14 here now, so it is considerably less than we were. But I'm not looking for any of them to feel vulnerable.
No. So when you were at capacity before, how many would you have been with you?
Well, we were well over 20. Up towards 25. Yeah. So we are down quite a few people. There is no doubt about that.
How's lockdown been for you on a home domestic level, the family?
On a domestic level, well, so ordinarily I have I live on my own most of the time in a seaside house in Falmouth, and I've got beautiful sea views, and I've got a nice garden. And lockdown brought my wandering boys back from America and Taiwan, and so we have lockdown projects which have included a lot of gardening, and we have fruit trees, and we have wildflower meadows, and we have vegetables galore now. It includes hatching day-old chicks. We now have 4 ducks in the garden, and I'm sure lots of other viewers have the same. We have rears in incubation as we speak.
Yeah,
they're gonna make it to 7 foot high apparently. So these have been. So suddenly our life has been very different, but we're so lucky because we go swimming every day, and we can run on the cliffs and whatever.
But
so how lucky are we? We are.
I know.
Really so lucky in Cornwall, and every day we all 3 of us got up and went, God, we are so lucky.
Yeah.
Because this is, we know other people don't have that.
We have our 3 sons around us, had them 13, 17 and 20, and it's been a very special time, but we've both been working a lot, but it's been great to have them around as well.
Very intense time all round.
Yes.
And it's been it's been from a work point of view very full on in terms of the amount of work we've done. I've never felt I've worked quite as hard as this, but it's also emotionally very intense. You know, it's been really, really difficult saying to people, you know, we're not going to be making as much cheese, and sorry, we don't have this work. And it's hard balancing the sales, and it's hard knowing what the next decisions, and whilst all the time you're keeping a really close eye on finance, because of course that's the name of the game at the moment. And you know, our sustainability and resilience hinges so much on getting this period right. I don't want to get to the end of the year and look back and think, if only.
Just briefly, because the virtual Cheese Awards will be attracting non-trade people, so some consumers. Tell us briefly about the range and how it came about, and some of the terminology behind the cheeses.
Well, the range of cheeses is, of course, absolutely as long as that piece of string, isn't it? And in the cheese world, we hold great store by our cheese awards, and we hold great store by them for a number of reasons. One is because it's a moment for us as cheesemakers to put our cheeses to a panel of people, to objective outsiders. Ordinarily, it's blind tasting, so they don't know what they're tasting. I'm bound to say, if you put a Cornish yarg in front of someone, normally they do know what they're tasting, but on the whole, it's blind tasted. And it's a moment when you get really good, strong indication of where you're at as a cheesemaker.
So tell us a bit about your cheeses, particularly. That's the ones.
Well, we're making 4 cheeses. We make Cornish yarg, which is a nettle-covered, naturally ripened, mould-ripened cheese. And we have a sister to that, which is wild garlic yarg. So that's wrapped in wild garlic leaves. And then 2 longer maturing cheeses. One is Scythians, which is, we call it a farmhouse cheese. It's a very traditional farmhouse method, and every little farmstead, dairy farmstead around this area would have made a cheese quite similar to that way back when. And it's, you know, a revival of that, really. And then we make Cornish kern, which we've been making for 3 years now, and which, as you know, is the winner of the World Cheese Awards, which was some great joy to us. And happily, we have good stock of both Cornish kern and Cornish yarg. So we're able to fulfill that stock, and that can keep going through. So that's been really good. A lot of that was being sent to the food service. And also we were sending some to America and some to Australia. So clearly there's been a bit of a sales gap there, and the stock's become more available. So
what about the names between kern and yarg? Just re-enlighten me on that.
Yeah. So Cornish yarg was first made by a chap called Alan Gray. And Alan Gray was not, in fact, a medieval knight. He was a farmer from Withiel near Bodmin Moor, and he turned his name backwards and said, we'll call this cheese yarg. And it was a very traditional recipe, and that recipe did actually go back to the 16th century. But so Alan Gray made Cornish yarg, and of course it's the same principles applied to garlic yarg. It's just a different wrap. And when we came to looking for a name for kern, we decided we were a business that likes single syllable strong names. And typographically, we like letters to form nice shapes. And kern means round in Celtic. So no one could say it's terribly sophisticated, but it's taken its place. And Scythians is our nearest village.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the milk from the farms that surround us here all used to be made in the pub in Scythians, just up the road. There was attached to the pub was a small cheese making dairy where they were making cheese and then redistributing it to all the farmers in the area. So there's a good sort of Scythians heritage of cheese making.
And kern, of course, the first 4 letters of Kernau, so as in Cornwall. So, yeah. And these are all cow's milk cheeses.
All cow's milk cheeses, yeah. And we buy milk from neighbouring herds, but we have our own herd of Ayrshires, very, very beautiful pedigree Ayrshires, which are farmed just about less than a mile away from us in Stithians. And that milk is ordinarily made into curd, but right now we're putting it into yolk and working out how that milk works with yolk. It's quite it's got quite as Ayrshire milk does, has quite a lot of fat, and we're getting a lot of milk off grass, and that is not always the easiest cheese for us, milk for us to make cheese into. So it's testing our cheese making skills a bit. We're really trying to work to understand it. And about the time that we understand it, it will change again, because it will become autumn, and the whole regime would change, and so the milk would change, and so the cheese will go back to something that is a bit more familiar to us.
And it will be very interesting, because obviously until we get a vaccine, to see what the new norm is, how business is going to be. I mean, have you been to a pub or a restaurant yet?
You know, I haven't been to any either. The pub 6 doors down the road has been doing takeaway beer all the way through lockdown. So happily, we have not been deprived of our pints. It's been really handy by.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Yeah, it's kept everybody, you know, calm. But going to see Michael to get the flagons of light bulb beer, our local beer. So, so back to the competitions. These competitions really give us that moment in time, whereas cheesemakers, we can reflect on how our cheese is performing at that point. And it's really useful, because if you're making the same cheese year in, year out, you can easily delude yourself to the fact that this cheese is unchanged. You know, it's always the cheese it was. And of course it does change. It changes across the seasons. It can change because you've got nuancing in the cheese making. And so it's really good for us to just kind of check in from time to time through the awards. And then the other thing is, it's a great showcase for our customers, for our public as well as our trade customers, and it gives us the opportunity to reach out and say, you know, this cheese is doing really well, it's tasting really good at the moment, it's grading well because, you know, and it gives a conversation. And I think one of the things about the Virtual Cheese Awards, as well as this huge great tide of increased online selling, is we as small producers are talking so much more often and more directly with our customers, and we're able to tell the stories, and we're able to talk to people in, you know, one-to-one, face-to-face, and say, you know, this is what you should be expecting. This is where we come from. This is when we're tasting it. This is how you know, you might want what you might want to do with your serving suggestion, and rather hilariously, we did a webinar, or, you know, live recording on grading 6 weeks ago, I suppose it was now, and we did it up on the farm with the cows. And it was a beautiful sunny day, and the sky was as blue, and the grass was as green, and the cows were beautifully, you know, their Ayrshire ginger colour. And so then we took some questions, and every other question was, can I come and live there? Can I come up? Can I come and stay? Can I come down? Is there room for me? You know, because it is that moment when we're suddenly getting into people's homes and hearts, and actually really connecting in a way that we were perhaps previously a little bit more distant. You know, the supply chain has shortened, which is, I think we're all feeling, is really to the good. Really good.
I think that's the local, the provenance, the knowing where our food comes from. Hopefully that will stick with us, and those connections with local producers, farm shops, delis. It's great. I mean, one of the things I know, you put together a West Country cheese board, and you know, with people like Phil Stansfield from Cornish Blue and Barbers. That was a great way to just stamp your marvelous cheeses and biscuits from the area. But that was a good initiative.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's been I think as an industry, we've always known we were close and tight knit, and we are, you know, we call ourselves friends, and we are genuinely friends. But through this period, the collegiate, you know, helping, nurturing spirit, everyone's wrapped around each other, and you know, is always checking in, saying, "Are you okay? You know, is everything all right with you?" because everyone's experience has been a little bit different. And some people have certainly been worse affected by it than others, hinging on a whole host of different reasons and different, it just depends, on the nature of that business. But I think what is common is that lots of people have been talking and having conversations. That's so good. I mean, we're all completely zoomed out, aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, our eyes are like sort of, I desperately need to get to the optician. I feel all of this has absolutely stuffed my eyes in.
As you say, it is, and it is pretty exhausting. It is a very different
Really
because we haven't quite got the 3D element yet. But it's great.
No.
I mean, well done for keeping it all going. And great that you've had the boys back with you. And we'll see what the future holds. None of us quite know, but as you say, I think the sense of community and with our customers and with fellow producers and people in the industry, I think that's been stronger than ever.
Yeah, it really has been.
Yeah.
Long may it continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Catherine Mead, OBE, no less.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's a joy to speak to you, and thank you very much indeed. That's just great, and well done. We got the technology right. Hurrah!
Hurrah! Thanks, Nigel. Great to see you.
And you.